The Kings are so back. Those two games against Houston feel like they were so long ago now. This game truly felt like the Kings of last season. Or honestly, not even the Kings of last season. This felt like a totally different team that was better in a different way. It was a defensive effort like I've never seen this team put in from start to finish, holding the Thunder to under 100 points. This is a very good Thunder offense. And we were able to contain them from start to finish of this game. There were so few times in this game where the Thunder were able to string baskets together. This brings the Kings back to 500, 4-4, and they are now 2-3 in games that Fox has not played. And after those games against the Rockets, I was pretty nervous just because it felt like this team couldn't win without Fox. I mean, we played well against the Warriors without him, but still didn't get that win. And it just, we were absolutely horrible against the Rockets. But now looking at what the Rockets have been able to do in the past week, hey, Houston might be legit. And it really might just be a case of they caught us off guard. Even though it was two games in a row, like they caught us off guard. They're a good team with a good defense. It sure seems they've been playing extremely well. But now we have beaten a good OKC team. And it was the first game of the in-season tournament. And the in-season tournament is something that I am really looking forward to and really excited about. So now we move to 1-0. OKC is 0-2, which doesn't eliminate them, but it's pretty unlikely now that they'll advance. And it seems like the Kings are taking this pretty seriously, especially Sabonis, who has talked about being super excited because this in-season tournament is something that they do in Europe. And I know the coaching staff was showing the team what they could buy with the $500,000 that the players can win if they win the whole tournament. And so there's that financial incentive, but it shows like the coaches want them to take this seriously. Mike Brown wants them to take this seriously. They're trying to motivate them. And Huerter talked about how the different looking court makes it definitely feel like a different environment. And there's also the aspect of point differential mattering. So the Kings were trying to score late in the game there, even though they could have dribbled out the clock. And Sabonis got mad at Huerter for not taking that last shot. But I, for one, love the idea of the in-season tournament, and I really want the Kings to win it. So I really like that the Kings are taking this super seriously, and I like that our court looks pretty good. I think I was skeptical at first about Gray being on the court, but I think it looked really good in comparison to like the teams that have red courts on the outside as opposed to just down the middle. You know, I was fine with the blue strip down the middle. So I thought it looked good, and I thought the jerseys looked really good. So I'm really excited about the future of the in-season tournament. But just talking about this game specifically and how it impacts the rest of the season, it really feels like the Kings are back. And that's Kevin Huerter being back, being able to shoot the ball. Keegan finally found his shot in the second half there. Sabonis, after being awful in those two games against Houston, is absolutely back. He was just picking apart the Thunder defense with his passing. He got a triple-double. And so although the Kings still only shot 27.7% from the three-point line, it was a lot more encouraging because of who was knocking down the shots and like them doing it in bunches. Keegan finally finding a shot in the second half, Huerter being able to knock him down, Sasha knocking him down, Monk knocking him down. Right, it's more Davion 1 for 6 bringing the percentage down, and Keegan in the first half bringing the percentage down, as opposed to just our shooters not being the ones hitting the shots. And this game as a whole was a horrible game if you liked 3-point shooting. At one point, the Thunder late into the second quarter were shooting like 6% from three, with the Kings not much better. But I do truly think the Kings were getting much better looks. than the Thunder. I think the Kings defensively earned the Thunder shooting poorly. Like they forced them into super tough shots, whereas the Kings were missing pretty open shots that they normally, at least last season, not this season, but last season, were hitting. And, after that second game in Houston, I went through each individual player on the Kings roster and was like, this is what he did horribly. This is what he did horribly. And I'm going to do that again, except the opposite, because I truly felt that everyone in this game, as opposed to maybe one player, came in and made a super positive impact. It really is the complete opposite of that second game in Houston. But I'll do that gradually. I'm not just going to list them off right now. The Kings started this game so well, and I really thought the only negative was the transition D, which is something that the Kings have struggled with a lot. And it's just that communicating, it's getting matched up, and the Kings personnel out there doesn't help them because I think there's a very specific way of how the Kings set up who's guarding who, and there's not much wiggle room, right? You have Keon Ellis guarding Shea, and you don't want anyone else guarding Shea, right? And it's the same with a lot of the positions. So that's why transition defense is super tough because they don't have a lot of positional versatility on the defensive side of the ball. And that really hurts them in transition when they can't get matched up the way they want to. But other than that, the Kings were just awesome coming out. Huerter absolutely dominating. Him and Sabonis really had that two-man game going. Huerter knocking down his shots from both outside and inside, which was huge. He only ended up going 4 for 10 from the three-point line, which is good, but, that's about what he averaged last season. So it's not like a lights out shooting performance for him, but it was really him getting inside and getting those buckets to go where he was 7 for 9 from inside the 3-point arc. That was huge. And I thought his passing was extremely good as well. He was doing a great job of slipping the ball into Sabonis, and then Sabonis was just picking the Thunder apart from all over the court, really. And he was finding Huerter on cuts. Huerter was doing a super good job of cutting. And Sabonis ended up with 13 assists in this one, which is a season high for him. He also set the Sacramento era record for triple doubles in this one. He has 15 total, passing Chris Webber, who had 14. So that's pretty cool. He still has a long way, though, to set the franchise record. I'm not sure what it is, but obviously Oscar Robertson has it. Mr. Triple Double. It's probably not passing him, but it's cool that he owns the Sacramento record. But we all know the thing that I've been harping on Kevin Huerter for all season is his defense. And he was amazing defensively in this one. He was getting his hands on the ball so much, helping super well. He was picking his right times when to come in and help, and created a lot of steals. He had 3 steals himself, but I think he created even more. He had a blocked shot, but he was just making so few mistakes defensively. He had one time where he got matched up on Shea and kind of got his hands caught down low and committed a foul. Like that was the only bad defensive play that I can remember for him. And that's going up against one of the best offensive players in the entire league. It was a huge improvement for him defensively from some of what we saw at the start of the season. And it was really him and Keon just getting their hands on everything. Keon got credited with 0 steals in this game, but he got credited with 3 blocks. I don't really care what you call him. Like he was getting his hands on everything and making so much happen. He knocked the ball out of Shea's hands countless times, and Shea got his, especially in the second half. There's no doubt. But you're not going to stop Shea. Like, it's not happening every single possession. He's going to get you sometimes, but I really thought Keon made him work for it, and he really slowed him down in the first half. And I think Keon has solidified himself as a rotational player. I think the first game of him starting was very much just, he was good defensively and didn't do too much offensively, and it was just him trying not to make a mistake and just get through his first game as a starter. This game, I thought he was actually a super positive impact on the game, both on the defensive side and offensively. He was not knocking down his three. There was also one three he passed up, and that was late in the game in clutch time. And I think that was just him, being nervous. I mean, that's his first time really being on an NBA floor in the clutch. But you want to see him just shoot that. And I think Sabonis told him that. But I just thought he was really steady throughout the game. And when the bench came in that first quarter, that's when I was thinking, okay, this is when OKC is going to come back into it, right? Because you have Shea still out there. He plays the entire first quarter, the entire third quarter. And so I thought they were going to come back into it. But then Kessler Edwards came in and he did a great job defensively. And there's a lot more positional versatility and just better defenders on our bench unit, right? We have Davion, we have Kessler Edwards, and Alex Len, who has now taken over the center spot for JaVale McGee. I think probably just because he's less foul prone and less mistake prone on the offensive end. Doesn't try to do as much offensively. And I talked about this last game. I think Mike Brown just wants more stability. So that's what he gets from the bench group, just more stability. Kessler Edwards only played 3 minutes in this game, which I didn't totally understand. He has zeros across the board in terms of stats, but he did a really good job defensively on Shea, I thought, when he was out there. And Monk came in off the bench and provided the offense. So it really didn't feel like there was any drop off, even when Sabonis went to the bench. But then you could feel the drop off in the start of the second quarter when the offense was, not going the same. And then J-Dub got 2 easy buckets. And I was like, okay, here we go. But then the Kings responded. And that was really the story of this game. The Kings just kept responding. They got that early lead and they never let the Thunder get it under 4 points. And most of the time, it was a lot higher than 4 points. They just responded to every run that OKC made. And even when calls weren't going their way, they didn't let it affect them too much. And they were able to always regroup and reestablish a big lead. I didn't think the Kings did a very good job in the non-Shea minutes in the first half. But then in the second half, the Thunder kind of cut it to, I believe it was 5 after that Dort 3 at the end of the third quarter, right? The Kings they held on there at the end of the third, which I thought was big, right? Keegan hit a 3 to put us up 8, and then Dort hits that big 3. I'm like, oh, that was a heartbreaker to what was a pretty good end of the third quarter, but then it was the start of the fourth quarter. That was the key, because when you have Shea on the bench, he's not going to be on the bench for very long in a close game like this. And when we don't have Fox, it's going to be super hard for us to win in clutch time when OKC can just give the ball to Shea and say, go to work. We don't have anyone that we can do that with, right? We're going to give it to Monk, but that's not as stable as giving it to Fox, giving it to Shea, right? That's just a different level. And so we had to take advantage of this non-Shea minutes. And what do? Immediately, we come out of that fourth quarter just firing, finally hitting our 3-point shots. And huge shout out to Sasha Vezenkov for coming in, who hadn't played, I don't think, in the first half. And he came in, played 8 minutes in the second half, and hit 2 threes. 2 big ones in the fourth quarter. Him and Davion hit one. Monk was going a bit crazy at the start of the fourth there, but we were able to, settle in and hit some big shots finally after struggling all game from 3. And then we were able to kind of maintain the lead from there. There was also that moment where there's a review for a clear path that was clearly not a clear path foul. And Monk, I think, just had to go to the bathroom. And all the reviews had been taking so long, so he thought he had time, and he did not. It was a super quick review. And then, so he's off the court. The Kings turn it over. OKC goes on a bit of a run. I'm like, no way. This is how we let OKC back into the game, because Monk had to go to the bathroom during a review that shouldn't have even happened. I'm like, no way. Because like I said, like at the end of the game, offense is just different. You can't rely on the same offense that you rely on in the first 3.5 quarters. And Monk is the only guy with Fox out that we can give the ball to and say, get downhill in the pick and roll and make something happen. But got to give credit to Huerter, who was making stuff happen in that two-man game with Sabonis, hit a huge three. We almost let them back in because of poor free throw shooting. Sabonis went 1 for 4. Keegan went 1 for 2 late, but we were able to close it out, even with those really dumb fouls by Barnes and Keegan. But that's what good defense can make up for. And usually missing free throws, which we do a lot in the clutch, and dumb fouls, usually teams are going to make you pay, but that's when you can't get any stops. And in this game, the Kings were just able to get the timely stops. I said I was excited to watch the Sabonis Chet matchup going into this one, and I definitely thought that there was two ways it could go. Either Sabonis is going to absolutely bully him inside just due to his size, and Chet's not going to know what to do with it, or Chet's going to really frustrate Sabonis with his length, and it was very much the former. Chet, I mean, I haven't watched every one of his games, but I've watched him a lot and I've really loved his game. This may have been his worst NBA game. He was horrible. He was getting straight bullied by Sabonis. And that's exactly what you want to see from your all NBA center going up against a guy who he's much stronger than, who's a rookie, and he just dominated inside. And Keegan postered him. Barnes postered him at one point. Sabonis postered him. There were three posters. We didn't get a fourth quarter poster, but the other 3 quarters we got a poster on him. So that was really fun. And yeah, Chet was not good offensively either. 4 turnovers, including one big one late, or just some rough shots. And so we very much won the matchup inside, which was huge because uh, that's where we have an advantage. We're just a bigger, stronger team. When you look at the Thunder, Chet at the 5, they don't have a big 4. And then off the bench, they just don't have a backup 5. They run Jay Will out there. And he wasn't knocking down his threes. It could have very much been a Dario Saric moment, right? Where if Jay Will is hitting his threes, that's a total game changer. But he's just not going to do that consistently. And so he was pretty rough for them. And the Kings were just able to dominate inside and dominate on the offensive glass. Sabonis, 6 offensive rebounds. Keegan, 4. Barnes, 2. Keon with that one putback dunk. That was awesome. Len with 3. All of them were tap outs. Len just kept tapping them back out. So a combined 16 offensive rebounds. We almost had 3 guys with a double-double, including rebounds. Kevin Huerter just short with 9. Keegan with the 11. And so in back-to-back games, it's been about the offensive rebounding. That's been huge. And then, of course, I have to talk more about Keegan. He was really struggling with his shot, just couldn't hit threes in the first half, but he was doing everything else. He was defending super well. He had 3 steals and a block. But more importantly, he was attacking the rim. And there was one point where it was just one too many pump fakes for Mike Brown, and Mike Brown was yelling at him, but he just takes one dribble or 1 or 2 dribbles inside the 3-point line, pulls up like I've been asking him to do the entire season, and just drains it. It was beautiful, and he had a bunch of pump fakes into drives. He had that nasty jab step on Josh Giddey that led to the Chet poster. He got to the line, just going up strong against a shot blocker, which was super big for him. And then he finally got those threes going. And so it was really a game for him of not letting the missed shots affect him and the rest of his game. He was playing super well other than the 3-point shooting. And then once he got that 3-point shooting going, that's what makes him kind of unstoppable, right? 24 points for him. And it really wasn't anything different than he did in any of the other games, apart from maybe one this season. He's been getting to all the right spots, like I've said after every game. He's getting to the right spots. He's just not knocking them down. He's just not making the layups. And in this game, he did, partly did, and he got 24 points. He is going to be a great scorer in this league. Harrison Barnes, rough game. I mean, it's been rough apart from that first game this season for him. 1 for 8. 0 for 4 from three, probably his worst 3-point shooting game. He had been solid from three the rest of the season, but he wasn't really punished defensively too much in this game. But so we were kind of able to hide him. But I don't know. I don't love him in the starting lineup. But the problem is there's just no real replacement. You have Kessler Edwards, you have Sasha Vezenkov, you have Chris Duarte. They all have their limitations. And, Barnes, he only played 26 minutes, which I was totally good with. Like 26 minutes is probably where he should be at. I don't like when he gets into the 30s. He was, not great in this game and just hasn't been great all season other than that first game. And so he really needs to hit the corner threes to be able to stay out there. And he was able to stay out there in this one because he was able to stay in front of who he was defending because they weren't, they're not going to give Dort the ball that much. And Giddy isn't the fastest guy. J-Dub, isn't the fastest guy either. He's pretty explosive, but I think it was a good matchup for him defensively. But I am worried about him in the starting lineup. I am. And Chris Duarte, who I thought maybe could be the replacement, hasn't looked good either. I don't even know why he really came into this game. I was confused because Kessler Edwards was playing well. But Kessler only got 3 minutes and we brought Duarte in the next stint for 5 minutes. And then Duarte was bad offensively. He's been rough. And so then it was Sasha in the second half because we couldn't knock down any threes. And Sasha is the guy that finally stepped up to hit the outside shots. And so maybe that was it. We just needed 3-point shooting and Kessler wasn't providing that. But I would have liked to see more Kessler Edwards. Davion was, like I mentioned, a part of that good defensive second unit. I thought it was funny. He immediately came in and fouled. And it feels like he's done that every game. But that was his only foul. So that was really good. And he hit that clutch three after 0 for 5 start, I think it was, for him from three. But he was really good defensively. Len was amazing on the boards. And then Monk coming in after a career high 10 assist game in the last one. He comes in and gets 8 assists in 29 minutes. And this time I understood him playing only 29 minutes. Last game I was like, what's going on? But this game I understood it because you always need someone to match up against Shea. So when Shea's in the game, a lot of time Monk wasn't in the game because Huerter is playing super well. Keegan's doing his thing. And so you don't want to run a 3-guard lineup. I mean, we could have put him in for Barnes, and I think we did at one point. But you don't want to take Keon out because he's doing a great job guarding Shea, and if you put him in for Keon, then who's going to guard Shea, right? So I understood that more, but I really liked what I saw from him. He wasn't able to get to the free throw line, but I think they were just allowing things to be a little more physical in this one than they were in the last one. He was a little out of control at times. There's no doubt some bad turnovers late, but a solid game from him. It'll really be interesting to see what happens when Fox comes back with Keon Ellis. Because I feel like you have to keep playing him, but whose minutes do you take away? I don't think they're gonna stop playing Davion. I don't. But Keon's been playing the one, which he definitely can play off, but like he's not a true point guard offensively. And so maybe he just takes the Duarte minutes and then kind of the Kessler Edward minutes, but also Kessler is a bigger defender, so maybe not totally those, and maybe that's matchup dependent, but it's kind of those Duarte, Sasha, Kessler minutes that he could find himself playing in depending on the matchup. And if he can prove himself as a solid 3-point shooter, then that changes absolutely everything and you absolutely give him the minutes because his defense looks really, really good. It's just crazy to me to like see the Kings have a two-way guy come in and actually make an impact. Like I see it all the time for other teams. Not all the time, but some teams, it's the Miamis, it's Memphis sometimes, where it's just you have these random guys out of nowhere who are just, you have Gabe Vincent who, had been playing for Stockton, but he goes over to Miami and all of a sudden he's a two-way player who's just amazing for the Heat. And I'm like, where's our two-way player, right? And I was hoping it was Kada, and it just really wasn't. And so Keon coming in and playing really well is super exciting because I'm like, okay, maybe he's the guy that can be that deep bench guy that proves himself and really does make the rotation. He's definitely earning himself an NBA contract right now. The Kings finish off their 3-game homestand on Monday against the Cavs, and then they go on a big, I believe, 6-game road trip that starts in LA against the Lakers. De'Aaron Fox and Trey Lyles seem to be ramping up, so hopefully we'll see them back soon. It's a little longer, 2 days in between these next 2 games, or I mean this next game. So maybe we'll see him then, or maybe we'll see him at the start of the road trip. I don't know, but we're definitely going to need Fox for this road trip because it's going to be really tough against some solid teams. But the Kings are really going to need to finally find their shooting. Like, hopefully they found it because the Cavs are super tough to score on inside with Mobley and Allen down there. The Cavs finally are healthy now. They have all their guys playing. They just lost to the Thunder with all their guys playing. And the Cavs at times struggle to score, but they have an elite defense. It's not just one Chet Holmgren in there defending. They got two. They got Jared Allen and they got Evan Mobley in there. And Mobley is going to be a matchup problem for the Kings. Hopefully he doesn't get going offensively because I could kind of see that happening because we don't really have the length or size to defend him when we have Sabonis on Jared Allen. Sabonis did a great job on Chet, by the way. So I do think he can guard either one. Sabonis, an underrated defender, I always say. But yeah, they got the Twin Towers. So we're going to be able to hopefully get by their guards. But then it's going to need to be drive and kick. And we're going to need to be able to hit our threes. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. Finally, a game with very good vibes. Maybe the best vibes of the season, on par at least with the vibes after the Lakers game. So hopefully we can keep that going, extend this win streak to 3 against the Cavs. So I will see you guys then. Peace.